Hello, I'm Pepper Baker, the education reporter for 13 WMAZ. I'm sitting here having a discussion with Stratford Academy's head of school, Logan Bowlds, about leading a school during COVID-19. We're in uncharted territory. Please tell me, as a career educator and recently named head of school, how do you go about providing leadership to a school during an international pandemic?
Absolutely, Pepper. From an early age, I had my grandmother tell me there are two types of people, those who either run to a fire or those who run from a fire. And for whatever reason, all of my life, I have run to problems in order to provide leadership or help or guidance just to get through it. So initially, I was nervous as such a young head of school. It made me, my inexperience was what worried me. However, I had somebody stop me and say, that's a blessing here because nobody has experience in dealing with a pandemic, an international pandemic. Regardless of your experience level, no head of school has ever dealt with a pandemic that you've had to live through. And so what I've tried to take advantage of is, because of my young age, at being able to play into the technology aspect, which is vital in transitioning and helping our kids during this time.
Definitely. I think you touched on a good thing, technology. So I know a big part of this whole transition has been remote learning. So what did you all learn from your distance learning experience in the spring?
Certainly. So the first 2 weeks, we got lucky with the timing. We had 2 weeks and then a week of spring break, and then we were going to continue on. So what we originally told our teachers was, we're just going to get through these 2 weeks, we'll go on spring break, and we'll come back and everything will be normal. As we found out, that wasn't the case. What we patched together to be temporary ended up being long-term. And so what initially, we will admit, it suffered because we are, as educators are, we are relationship builders. We build relationships with the kids that we have in class. And while technology is wonderful for assessments and quizzes and tests and assignments and postings, it's difficult to recreate that relationship with a student. So what we spent time in those 2 weeks and then that week of spring break was really trying to tweak and perfect the online platform. So we utilized new video conferencing software, we got our Google Classrooms up, and the teachers were able to fine-tune how we delivered it. And so what we learned from that experience, we then took into the summer, seeing how the pandemic played out, and realized we can capitalize on the experiences that we've already built into the school, particularly because our curriculum already was a critical thinking, curriculum-based approach. And so it allows our students to easily learn online as easy as it is on campus as well.
Did you all actually get parent feedback or student feedback that actually enjoyed the remote learning option? I mean, what was that like?
We did. We were surprised. So we sent a parent survey out at the end of May after everything was over. And we said, first off, how did we do with how were we able to transition? How did everything go? And we were very pleased at the overwhelmingly positive support we got from parents. Now, we certainly had those parents who were, please never make us do this again. Even though you did a good job, please don't make us do this again. And then there were other parents who were like, we really think you might be onto something here. The fact that I was able to feel safe, I'm able to provide childcare for my child who's at home, but I still want them to engage in a Stratford Academy education. And so that was kind of our framework as we entered into the summer, and we seek to capitalize on it throughout the year. So far, we have over 70 students who have enrolled in the online learning, and we're a school of close to 800, so it's a pretty good percentage of those who have opted to remain home. But of those, they have said they had such a positive experience in the spring, they wanted to continue it during the school year, while so much is still unknown as in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay, definitely. So now with school starting just around the corner, how is Stratford preparing for this school year?
We are doing everything, no stone unturned, as much as for our on-campus students as well as our online students. For our on-campus students, we're making sure to have everything, the hand sanitizing stations, the temperature checks, the mask requirements. We're spacing kids apart in the classrooms. They're no longer going through lunch lines. Again, every intentional effort is being put forth. For our online students, we have spent all summer researching the video conferencing software, what are the best platforms, and getting even deeper, how do we teach online kids? Do we do the same grading? Do we do the same, are the expectations the same? And overwhelmingly, we have said yes. A Stratford Academy education that you get in the classroom is the same Stratford Academy education you get online.
So what are some of the advantages you feel independent schools have in today's climate?
Certainly. Flexibility is the name of the game. The idea that as we have all seen, the pandemic has shifted from day to day. And so other schools that may have to wait on a higher authority to tell them what to do, an independent school, the flexibility remains with us. And so what happens is as things change, we're able to adapt and pivot as they come our way. Secondly, because we are a smaller community, it allows us to reach out to our families to whom we already know really well and say, here's the evidence that's coming our way, here's why we're shifting. And so it allows us to have a more relationship-based approach so our families don't feel like it's a cold communication that all of a sudden upends their experience at our school. It is well thought of, it is communicated, and they feel like they're involved in the process. So that is an enormous advantage to us in being able to adapt and pivot while keeping our relationships at the center of everything we do.
Okay, great. So it sounds like you had a pretty smooth transition with remote learning, and then now upcoming school year. So heading into the school year, you are offering both at-home learning and in-person. So how was the decision made to return to in-person classes?
So what I like to say is basically once we shut down, we instantly started planning our return. When we saw that the pandemic was playing out in the way that it was, we knew that this was for the long haul. And so what we instantly started doing was we formed a reentry task force, which was of all of our administrators, a few faculty members, as well as several doctors within our Stratford community who volunteered to reach out and wanted to volunteer their expertise in running our protocols by them. And so we spent all summer going over our RTC plans, called Return to Campus plans, which also is called our Rekindling the Spark. Our current marketing theme is Igniting Sparks, okay, Ignite the Spark, which is our hashtag, which the students will get for their back to school stuff. And so we thought, okay, what is it when we bring kids back? What is it we want to say? Well, we want to rekindle the spark. We've been apart for 5.5 months, so here's our opportunity to get back on campus. And so we have spent, again, all summer looking at other schools, talking to representatives from the Centers for Disease Control, talking to people within the Southern Association of Independent Schools, comparing plans. I have never seen so much collaboration because, again, this is so new and unusual that everybody is in this together. And so from our independent school network, we've been able to work with each other in sharing best practices, looking at different researches and articles, and formulating these return to campus plans.
Okay, wow. Yeah, I often say that I feel like educators did not get a summer vacation this summer because you all were working hard. So I know that parents and students want to know what they're going to see on the inside of the school. So what have you all implemented into the schools to actually enforce those social distancing guidelines? What will change?
So from a student's perspective, what they'll see is the moment they arrive on campus, their temperature is checked. We tossed around whether or not to give it a few minutes, get them into homeroom, but we wanted to take the strictest policy of taking their temperature before they enter the building. So if they do present with a symptom, a fever, we're able to catch them before they even walk in the door. The moment that happens, they come in, they're either directed to wash their hands or utilize a hand sanitizing station. So those are the first two steps. And then as they're walking down the hallway, we've put dividers and tape in certain hallways directing the traffic flow to make sure students stay on one side of each hallway. We've also not allowed them to use their lockers this year because that's where they congregate, as many of our students do. So they're allowed to now bring their backpacks with all of their materials. And because we are such a technology-centered school to begin with, textbooks have kind of been phased out. So the idea of them walking with 10 textbooks in their backpack and tripping over themselves is just not realistic. So once our students get into the classroom is really where you'll notice the difference. We've removed all of the furniture that really isn't vital to learning and to allow our students to spread out. That allows us too in our lower school to cohort sections of the classes. So if a case presents itself, they're as contained as possible. Okay. For our middle and upper school students, that's why we've required masks, because it's actually detrimental to them for us to cohort them because they are in different math classes and AP sections, and so they mix much more frequently. So in our lower school classes, though, they're in grades 3rd, 4th, and 5th, they're still required to wear masks, and they're spread out. But that's just an additional mitigation attempt.
So there are families who are opting for your virtual learning option. So how do you all plan to keep them engaged in your school community activities?
So because, again, we are small, it allows us to have those one-on-one conversations. We have our guidance department who does weekly check-ins. Our teachers send daily emails. With the live streaming in the classrooms, they're able to have more face-to-face interaction. They're doing where they're going to actually start Zooming during lunch. So when the kids are all eating lunch, the iPad will actually travel with them, and the kids can sit there who are at home eating their lunch while still engaging in lunchtime conversation with the kids.
No way.
Absolutely. Wow. And so it'll be funny, and the kids will roll with it, and they'll get it. But again, it's just that extra element to make sure the kids feel included. It's so easy, as we all know with technology, that we can be connected without really being connected. And so any element we can add to that to just make it fun from a child's standpoint of just lunchtime conversation, we're making sure that we do. We're also going to host several virtual parent lunches and virtual parent coffees, because these parents who are employing this method of keeping their children at home are as strict themselves, who are also remaining at home. And so they're losing out on opportunities to come to campus and engage with families. So we're providing that option for them as well.
Okay, wow, you really sound like you have everything planned out. But of course, we have to talk about the inevitable. So it is likely that all schools will have to deal with COVID-19 outbreaks at some point.
Certainly.
So if that does happen with Stratford, how do you all plan to handle that situation?
Certainly. Something that we've instructed our faculty and staff is it's not if a case will present itself, it's when. So that's what we've kind of operated from, the idea that it is inevitable that we will deal with suspected and confirmed cases all year. So when we have a confirmed case within our community, we can say with certainty from grades 3rd through 12th that because they are all masked, they are 6 feet apart, that we do not have to send home everybody else. Because again, we've met all the criteria for the Centers for Disease Control for close contact, that we've eliminated that. So because students in our lower school program and preschool, it's impractical to socially distance, and that's also the age that makes it difficult to wear masks, when we have a confirmed case of COVID in those grades, we'll have to be a bit stricter. We'll be able to identify who it is in that class based on the positive test, and then those students in that classroom who would have been within the 6 feet for more than 15 minutes would have to quarantine. However, because we have this online platform, the transition will be seamless. Students may go home on a Tuesday, and on Wednesday, they'll be able to utilize the platforms that we have without missing a beat.
Okay, wow. And then I just feel like we need to touch the teacher aspect. So, you know, we talked about the safety with the students, but what are your teachers equipped with? How are you keeping your employees safe?
So something that we've done from their end is that each classroom will have disposable Clorox wipes. And so between every class, every transition, they wipe down, the students will actually aid in wiping down the desks. So that's kind of a constant supply of disinfectant. Additionally, teachers they will be masked, and they will be up at the front of the room 6 feet away, and we've provided with them face shields, because right now, the way that the guidelines read, a mask is only required when social distancing cannot be enforced. So if a teacher is up at the front of the room, they technically can remove their mask because they are more than 6 feet away. However, we're taking a more conservative approach of giving them a face shield. That way a student can still see their face, which is imperative in our lower grades, that kids for phonetics and everything like that, they need to see a teacher's face. And so by providing them a shield, it's just an additional mitigation attempt, while also giving them that relationship of seeing a student's face.
Now, in regards to your staffing, have you all made any changes?
We did. We realized in order to deal with the day-to-day operational aspects that come along with the mitigation of this virus, we needed somebody in-house and on campus. So we've hired a pediatric nurse practitioner with almost 40 years of experience to provide us with insight during the school day into the running of our school.
So will she be taking temperatures? What are some of the things that we'll be seeing her doing?
Yes, she will be responsible for recruiting and training the teachers to take temperatures at the doors as the students come onto campus. But pretty much from the start of the school day to the end of the school day, she will oversee all health and well-being aspects of the school.
All right, so you all sign your correspondence with courage and confidence. So tell us what that means in a situation that we're currently in, and what that means with the leadership you're providing at Stratford.
So when I was in 8th grade, I had an 8th grade teacher present a PowerPoint to us that had all of these different historical leaders, and the name of the PowerPoint was called Courage and Confidence. And at the very end, she went through presidents, through dictators, through leaders, all these people who had to deal with an array of different issues in countries, battles, all these historical events. And at the end of it, I distinctly remember her saying, each one of these leaders struggled with, whatever struggle it was at the time, but all of them had courage and confidence, and sometimes that's all they had left. So while it's hard to predict the future at this point, and because so much is unknown, courage and confidence is what leads the way. Knowing that our students are still going to show up tomorrow, we still have an obligation to our families to provide the best academic experience in Middle Georgia, and courage and confidence is what will get us through these hard times.
Well, it definitely sounds like you all put a lot of thought and effort and time into these back to school plans, so thank you so much for just breaking down those protocols. If you want further information, please visit stratford.org, or you can call the school if you have any questions, and if you want to visit, just make sure you bring your mask. Thank you for joining us.